All right, guys. So this online safety bill, I don't think most people realize just how bad this is. I mean, everybody pretty much understands that it's not about protecting the kids, all right? This is about control. This is about building a new system where your access to the world is prescriptive. Like the idea of freedom is getting replaced by the idea of licenses. No longer is it considered like a default freedom to have things like freedom of speech, freedom of assembly. Um, it's getting replaced by being given permission, conditional permission to engage with the rest of society. And it is fully Orwellian. Like, this is really bad. And of course, it's not just one isolated thing, it's part of a trend in the whole of society where there's just an increase of control, of government oversight, of surveillance, of censorship, and it's really, really bad. Like, we can't underestimate how bad this is. It's not just about your access to social media platforms. It's much more serious than that. Um, this kind of started a few years. Well, it didn't start a few years ago. They began to ramp it up a few years ago. Obviously, we've had sort of this general shift towards more censorship, surveillance, and control for a long time, but it really started ramping up a few years ago under COVID. They created whole new categories of censorship specifically for one topic, for people asking questions about that situation that didn't, people that didn't agree with the official narrative of what was going on at the time. Um, and this isn't just like crazy people with tinfoil hats. You had like literal doctors on social medias trying to speak about their concerns about what was going on and how their analysis didn't match up with what governments were telling us. I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole, but if you know, you know, right? There was a lot of bullshit going around, and they created new categories to specifically censor one topic. Right? It was unprecedented levels of control of speech, censorship, and all the rest of it. So that sort of created a context, a pretext, a precedent rather, get the right word. That created a precedent very recently to sort of carry on this trajectory of ramping up control of the internet, essentially. Um, and yeah, there are people making legitimate warnings that this will not stop here. That this is on a trajectory towards something like a social credit system. A lot of people have been talking about this for a while, essentially, where it's easy to control a population because you can penalize them for falling out of line, for daring to be a dissident, for example. Um, the whole concept of freedom and of democracy is based on the ability to challenge authority. And they are very, very quickly making it very difficult to do that effectively. It's properly serious. It's not just about, oh, I've got to put some details in and send a picture so I can carry on scrolling. That's the trivial end of it. So I'm afraid the only thing that's really going to prevent this occurring is if a critical mass of people just do not engage with it, come off those websites and services that are demanding this age verification thing, right? That's the only way it's going to be stopped. Is if we do not engage with it, if we stop giving them our time, money, and attention to any website that requires this new ID verification stuff, right? But that's who's going to do that? Like, is that realistic that people are going to actually sacrifice parts of their own life to potentially win some sort of political battle that nobody really understands that well? And this the commonality is that as individuals we don't feel like we can affect change, right? Things happen in the world, you know greater powerful forces in the world just make things happen, and most people's conception of that is that's just how it is now. But the truth is we do have power and we can affect things, and we can stop bad things like this happening if enough of us just refuse to engage with it. Literally, all we have to do is say no, and then they won't be able to enact it, right? Because it doesn't work if most people are just not even engaging with the platforms that you're trying to control, right? So, but of course, but again, like, who's going to do that? I can't envisage that enough people would do that and actually sacrifice their comforts, the way that they relax, all the things that they entertain themselves with. Um, I just can't see enough people doing that. But that is my intent. So if I go dark on here on all socials, it'll be because I've been asked for ID verification and I'm not doing it. So I might disappear from YouTube. I might stop posting, and it'll be a shame, but that is my intent, and I think that's what we need to do. It's the only thing that can actually affect change. A petition's not going to do anything. I mean, I'll link it in the low bar. Someone's got a petition going, but they never affect anything. The only thing that really affects something is the bottom line, and the way we do that is by not using these platforms and unsubscribing, stopping giving them money, time, and attention. And yeah, so that's it, guys. It is time to go analog. All right, it's time. Right, they've given us the push we finally need. Listen, it'll be good for us, right? We've all become dopamine addicts. We've all become social media addicts, just mindlessly scrolling all the fucking time because it's what we're used to, and we just get home from work and we're tired and we haven't got time to invest into anything else more substantive, so we just sit there and scroll. It'll be good for us, right? This is the push we need, right? This may not have been their intention, but we can use this situation to improve our lives. And I'm only half joking, right? It's literally true. Like, we could just pretend we're time travelers and going back to the 90s, right? Before the internet was even a thing, right? And miraculously, we still managed to have social lives. We still managed to pursue interests and have relationships with people and organize things before the internet. It was possible. Um, but maybe we just need to go analog, guys, when all this stuff is kicking off right now. So we just need to walk away from it and go back to having hobbies instead of scrolling. It'll be good for us. Learn an instrument, right? Yeah. Learn how to juggle, new skills, filling our time with other things than the things that we have become used to, that have become the default whenever we have a spare moment. The internet has become our default for the majority of people, hasn't it? And it's made us lazy and it's made us boring, right? And it's given us social anxiety, and there's a lot of negative consequences that have come from this shift to this just permanently online sort of paradigm that we're living in right now. So I actually genuinely think it could be good for us, but I can't see enough people making that decision because it feels like a very significant decision to make. It feels like abandoning your whole life for some people, and in some regards it's actually literally true, because you've got hundreds of thousands of people making a living off of social media now. So what are those people going to do? They can't effectively protest by stopping using platform because that's their job. um it's kind of funny, unless I'm wrong, unless I'm mistaken and I've just not heard of it, I don't think there's any union for influencers, for example. I mean, not that the unions these days have much power anyway. They've all kind of become compromised and ineffective, really. But the concept of unionized workers is really important, and it could have been something useful. But I just think we've got to walk away. I think we've got to down tools and fucking do something else. Go do something else less boring instead. Why don't we? Why don't you? Um, like I said, they set the groundwork for this ramping up of authoritarianism during COVID, when they had ridiculous rules like you can't congregate in a group of over two people. I actually got arrested for that in London. I was walking around a park in London with hundreds of people. Some guy was giving a talk. I was filming it on my camera. Police came over and decided I was the one that needed to be spoken to in that regard, even though there's dozens of other people around. Long story short, there was a period in time not so long ago you could get arrested for being in a group of over two people, despite the fact everyone was still congregating anyway by going to work and going to shops. It was utterly mental. Um, the kind of authoritarian overreach that no one would have believed if you told them in 2019, in a few months you're going to be told you're not allowed to go and visit your grandmother. if someone had told you that in 2019, you'd have called them crazy. Like, what are you on about? Tinfoil hat. And then it happened. The speed of this trajectory is unreal, right? But they created some of the context for this again during COVID. I was dismayed to see not a lot of people stand up against it. A lot of people did, but it should have been a lot more. Like, yeah, one of the biggest protest marches in history occurred during that time to protest lockdowns and mandated jabs. It all blends into one now. There was a lot of crazy shit. Over 1 million people marched the streets of London. I believe it was in 2021. And that was huge. It was the biggest protest march in this country since the Iraq War march in 2003, 4, whatever it was, right? So there was a big resistance, but it should have been so much bigger. You know, people agreeing to have this just so they could travel, or because they were getting told they might not be able to go to social gatherings, they won't be able to have a job. I worked in the NHS. I was told, if you don't get this, you're out the door, mate. So I made other plans. Applied to be a bus driver. Actually got offered the job. They sent off my driving license so I could be a learner bus driver. They sent off for some boots for me for work. And then at the very last minute, the government reversed that mandate in the NHS. Probably because it was unworkable, as 100,000 people refused. And 100,000 people walking out the NHS on the same day would have caused chaos. Also, of course, it contradicted all previous precedent regarding informed consent and body autonomy and human rights. You know, the basis of all human rights is essentially bodily sovereignty. That I get to decide what happens with my body, and I can't get penalised for disagreeing with somebody else's opinion of what I need to do with my body, right? It's just the most basic possible human right you can think of. And they tried to violate that, and they did violate that during COVID. And it's not enough people stood up to it, and I can't be, it was frustrating, but I tried not to sort of judge people for acquiescing, because most people, they don't have headspace for that kind of analysis of complex events like that, right? You get up, you go to work, you do your thing, you come home, you make your dinner, you try and have a few hours to yourself where you have some joy and fun. If you've got kids, you've got to sort them out, all these other responsibilities, all these stresses you've got going on, everything. Life's a fucking circus. So people just want to get on with it and keep their head down and fucking get on with it, right? So people genuinely believe that big stuff that's happening is probably just what needs to happen. So we just go along with it because I can't think about it, right? That's how most people, I imagine, sort of operate. Um, but I try not to be like that. I try to sort of analyze things, see what's going on, and have an informed opinion on stuff. But I can't be mad at people for not having arrived at the conclusion that, oh, hang on a minute, all of our institutions are compromised. Lies, corruption, manipulation on a scale unimaginable. People haven't got the time and energy to decipher that kind of shit. So, but that's just to make the point that, yeah, they did a number on us, and most people went along with it. Most people were wearing the masks, even though they didn't get brought in 4 months and after it kicked off, right? In the summer, people were wearing masks. Having that, all the rest of it, lockdowns, not enough people stood up. I think, and I hope, a lot of people since then have realised what a load of bullshit that was. And this is indicated by the fact that, there was a huge sudden drop off in people going back for boosters, right? Not a lot of people went back for boosters, especially after the first booster. So that'd be 3 jabs in total. That dropped off real quick after that. Because the hype died down essentially, I think. But yeah, so but I do think a lot of people have sort of realised the fuckery that was going on since, and I really hope that they take that realisation into now and what is happening now, and have some of them the cojones to sort of stand up against it. So, but I really think that the only effective way to stop this is for us to disengage with any platform that requires that identification, verification. Um, I just can't see it happening because everyone's addicted. You're in your groove now. We've been doing it for years. You know, it's just what you do for chill time. Do a bit of scrolling, go on your socials. It would feel. I think it's going to feel like a huge wrench for people to disengage from those activities and go back to other things. It's not like this. It's not like there isn't other things to do with our time and energy. Like I said, just pretend you're in the 90s and go back and pick up an instrument or whatever else. Go out, go around people's houses instead of WhatsApping. Imagine that. But yeah, that's the serious part of this video, and I'm sorry about that. But it is. I am basically announcing that I might be leaving YouTube. If that's my intent, is to resist these things. People are talking about ways to get around it by cheating the system using Death Stranding to sort of put a fake photograph in or whatever else. None of that is a good idea, in my opinion, because it just legitimizes the system, even if you're trying to cheat it. It just means that they get to implement it and solidify it, and they have time to sort of make it stick whilst a certain percentage of people are trying to game the system, right? And then all they do then is change the system so it can't be gamed and increase. It will not stop here. That's the fucking reality. It's real serious actually, and it's not isolated. It's part of a trend, and it does not lead to good things, right? So anyway, I'm sorry, not sorry. That's the serious part of this video over. I did have one other sort of thought related to this, which is a bit more trivial. But do we think that retro games and consoles will suddenly have a rebirth with this ramping up of restriction of modern technology, modern services? Right. So if you've got an old console that's not connected to the internet, for example, you've got all those games on disc, right? No one's taking them away from you. No one can ever tell you, oh, you need to verify your identification to access this content. That's not going to be a thing on Mega Drive or Dreamcast or Saturn or GameCube. So I'm just wondering if this new wave of authoritarianism will mean retro consoles go up in popularity again. This is Pingu. He's a bit of a knobhead sometimes. He is. Yeah, he's nice to us. He's just not very nice to Trevor, the other cat. Um, So I mean, I've already got rid of all my Mega Drive stuff. I've still got a loft full of like PS2, original Xbox, GameCube, various systems, and my intention was to sort of go through all of that and just sell the majority of it, because I'm just not getting around to it. And realistically, I think looking forward, VR is my obsession now. So it's like, as new and better VR stuff comes on, I'm gonna want to keep up with the new VR stuff. I'm not gonna. I don't see when I'm gonna have time to go back to these old consoles and play through 350 Xbox games. Maybe I will, but this new development has now got me thinking. I should probably hold on to those games and systems because I might require some entertainment that isn't reliant on logging into something, right? So just food for thought there. But what's your thoughts on this, guys? Yeah, we like to talk about sort of trivial fun stuff in our gaming community, don't we? But this is really quite serious and it deserves our attention and requires our coordinated action, I would say. And so I really do think we have to just disengage and give up these things, if only for a while, because that if a critical mass of people, big theoretical here, I don't see it happening, I'm afraid, but if a critical mass of people did manage to remove themselves from these services, websites, they would not be able to implement it. And it would quickly be rolled back. Yeah, this is going to become the main point, I think, for the next election. I think if a party comes out and says, we will roll back all of these policies, they're going to win the election because everybody has become a social media addict, a dopamine addict. Everybody is addicted to their phone and lives online, right? Everybody, a huge percentage of people basically live online, right? Uh, but yeah, but the problem is this is drip feed, so they introduce it. Oh, it's to save the kids. It's just to save the kids, you know. Oh, Wikipedia as well. Is it calling on Wikipedia? Is it? Oh well, it's just other reasons. But never mind that. Just carry on. Just gives you details. Sign in. Agree to this. Blah blah blah. They're building the walls of the cage around us, and it's not trivial. It's serious. All right, guys. I might see you again. I probably will. I don't know when it's going to hit YouTube or when I'm going to be asked for ID verification, but if it happens, my intention is to disengage. I can't promise that I will. I'm making this argument to say not enough people will do it. I can't even 100% say for certain whether I will do that and disengage, but that's my intention. And I think it's the only way we get to defeat this tyranny. Sorry for the sort of serious video on this gaming channel, which is all about fun times. But that's what's going on in the world, isn't it? So, yeah. All right, guys. In a bit. Bye.